Alright, here we go with part 2 of our very short unit, Unit 8, Reaction and Reform. And this part of it basically talks about Germany and Italy and their establishment as unified nations. Up until this time, they were just a collection of kingdoms speaking the same language and sharing some other customs, but they were not united like we think of Germany and Italy today. Both Italy and Germany had attempted to unite into nations in 1848, only to be defeated by the conservative forces of post-Napoleonic Europe. Austria once again established her dominance over the area. By the 1860s, leadership went from revolutionaries to politicians who used politics as a means to a unified end. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the revolutions of 1848, but real quick. For Germany, liberal failure allowed for more nationalistic conservatives to try and unite the Germanies. And in Italy, same thing. Liberal failures by the revolutionaries there, by the Italian revolutionaries, paved the way for a liberal political leader, a conservative political leader from northern Italy to match political moves with revolutionaries in the south. So anyway, here we go. So with Germany, unification of Germany. Germany, at different times, has been up to 300 separate little kingdoms. So they have had some unification issues for quite some time. The largest state of all these Germanic states was by far Prussia. And Prussia, if you're looking at this map here, is this green area. Okay, mainly this area as well as over here. Okay. Otto von Bismarck would come into play and would be the key figure that unites Germany. The Prussian king at the time, Wilhelm I, appointed Otto von Bismarck. He was a conservative prime minister. He sought to unify Germany not for revolutionary reasons. He wanted to unify Germany to make it strong, powerful, and rich. And he wanted to gain more territory and power for Prussia. He overruled Parliament and basically ruled like a dictator. So he was very conservative. He wasn't about people getting their rights, voting, and fair governments. He was all about, taking those eggs and making an omelet out of them. He also used something called realpolitik, which is a noun in this case. And that basically means politics/diplomacy based on practical factors, not theory. And the ends justify the means. So basically, he was influenced by Machiavelli. You've got to, again, if you want an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. So if a lot of people die in the process of unification, that's just the way it is. So Bismarck, here he is here, was not a fan of liberalism. And he had a very famous quote about, blood and iron will get you results, not sitting around talking about, hey, these are great ideas. But it's actually the battle, the war, that wins and unifies people together. He used a series of international incidents to remove all outside influence from the German states, specifically Austria and France, via war. Okay, and the war that we're talking about is the Franco-Prussian War from 1870 to 1871. This was between, obviously, France and Prussia. The northern German states supported Prussia, southern German states supported France. Realizing that only a war with France would allow the annexation of the southern German states, Bismarck engineered a war with Napoleon III. Basically, there was a telegram that went out, and before it was sent out, Bismarck edited it, basically kind of insulting Napoleon III and touching off the war. So he basically started this war by editing a document to upset the other side, and it worked. End result was the Germans and the Prussian states crushing French forces and finally uniting Germany. So OVB, Otto von Bismarck's political maneuvering directly resulted in a united Germany. Okay, so it wasn't pretty. He told a few lies along the way, broke a bunch of eggs, but he finally got that omelet he wanted. Isn't that right, kids? I guess. Now on to Italy. All right. Italy had two major players that helped bring about their unification. But first, a few problems. Italy was not very educated. They were mostly illiterate, not really up to date with the ideas of democracy that had been exploding around Europe. The Pope didn't like this idea of these new governments, so the popes in the Catholic Church were definitely conservative and against the ideas of liberal revolution. The North was more developed than the South, and they didn't really have too much in common. Kind of like if you think about the Civil War of the United States, the North and the South, Northern states, Southern states didn't really have a lot in common either, except for the fact that they were Americans. The key player here is on the right. Camillo di Cavour became the prime minister as appointed by King Emmanuel Victor II. Nice mustache there. All right, he's got the little chin beard here. Okay, both of these guys were conservatives, obviously kings. Again, the status quo, the monarchies. The rich people want to keep things as they were. Here is where they were operating out of. Piedmont, this little territory up here, Sardinia, and just this general area. Okay, so again, Italy, like Germany, was very fractured, not unified, lots of little kingdoms with different kings and things like that. So they wanted to kind of make all of this one white area without all the little jagged lines in it. So unification of northern Italy, led by Prime Minister Count Cavour. He was the Italian version of Otto von Bismarck, used Italian realpolitik. To unite Italy, he needed to defeat Austria, and to do that, he allied with France, and that would kind of sew up and unite the North. Okay, there were still problems in the South with unification, but that would be resolved here by a gentleman by the name of Giuseppe Garibaldi. Giuseppe Garibaldi was kind of like the I'm trying to think, like a George Washington of Italy. Okay, very renowned, respected, remembered historical figure in Italy. He also has a snack cookie named after him, the Garibaldi biscuit, which is kind of like a Fig Newton, but a little bit crunchier. Anyway, so he is operating down here, okay, and he led a group. Garibaldi was the leader of the failed 1848 effort. Okay, so he had been trying for a while to unify Italy, but it finally came around much later. He began at the southern end of the boot with his 1,000 red shirts. Okay, and Giuseppe Garibaldi, used Italian nationalism to gain support. Okay, so he was able to use the red shirts, nationalism, the pride of the Italian people. Hey, let's come together and get rid of the Austrian power that's kind of holding us back. All right, and the last piece of the puzzle were the Papal States. The Papal States were run by the Catholic Church, and they kind of held out until they finally said, you know what, we'll make Italy completely 100% unified. So the Papal States finally join in, and Italy is united. Okay, and here's a quick look at the two leaders. You got the politician versus the soldier. One was liberal, one was conservative. One wanted a new government. One wanted a monarchy. In the end, they kind of compromised and Italy had a constitutional monarchy that lasted for a little bit of time. So that is the unification of Germany and Italy. Make sure you know these two guys, Cavour, Garibaldi, and how they got that. And then don't forget about Germany with OVB and his realpolitik. So finish those notes up, and I will see you back here in the next class.